All right. Hello, everybody here
Welcome,
and
welcome.
everybody out there. How's everybody doing? Everybody ready for a great webinar?
Amped up.
All right. Nice. So here we are to talk about unlocking business efficiency with Claude AI. Sure, Claude is and AI is on everybody's conversations. I know, like, I haven't seen anything like this since back when the web started. Yes, I'm going to date myself. I remember that. When the web started, it went from nowhere to suddenly in every conversation. You'd go to dinner, it was in that conversation. You'd have, friends, drinks with friends, it was in that conversation. That's the way AI has been, especially for the last couple of years. And now it's like AI, Claude, oh my God, it's every conversation I have. So let's get right into talking all about this. We've got a great group of people here. Me, I am Norman Dweck from RCS. I've got Jeffrey with me from RCS. Hello,
Hey.
Jeff. I've got Hadass from Next Gen AI. You're going to be amazed by some of the things she's doing. And we've got Judah Berger from Unframe. Those guys are doing some pretty cool stuff on the more custom level. Let's see. So let's get to some housekeeping. There is a comment section that you guys can put comments into. I'll hopefully see it scrolling by. And you can also put questions in there. So feel free to dump questions in there. I'll be reading them. The person who's behind the scenes in this will be posting them on the screen. If you want, you can actually come on the show and ask a question. So you can get a little face and audio time on there. When you do that, Alex, who's behind the scenes, she is going to post a link in the comments. If you click on that link, you'll be able to come on the show. The key to this is, though, if you're watching on LinkedIn, mute LinkedIn, because otherwise you'll have a whole bunch of echo and it gets crazy and you don't want that. So, so let's get into this. How did we get here?
Let's do some intros first, Norman.
Okay.
So I'm Jeffrey Tabelli with RCS Professional Services. We're an IT managed service provider with offices in New York and Atlanta, Georgia. We service small businesses all across the country, helping them with their IT. This is why, obviously, AI is a big conversations that we're having with our clients all the time. We do everything from their help desk, support their infrastructure, roll out new things, and AI is front and center in the conversation. Judah, maybe you could tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your firm?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Judah. I'm an AI product strategist here at Unframe. We are what is called a managed service provider for, I guess, maybe MSPs, maybe doesn't talk too much, but we basically work with enterprises as well as, medium to small companies on, understanding where AI can be implemented best. And then we build it for our clients and then manage it throughout, right? So it means that we come across a lot of different use cases and we're not pinned in on one industry. And through the exposure to so many different types of data, so many different in verticals, it allows us to draw parallels on, what's the best practices and bringing in a fresh perspective. So that's it.
Awesome. All right, excited to hear more. I know we're working on mutual clients together, and it's great work that you guys do. Hadass, tell us a little bit about yourself and your firm.
Yeah, sure. So, hi, my name is Hadass Frank. I'm the founder of Next Gen AI. Next Gen AI is based in New York. We operate in the US and in Israel as well. We provide AI strategic consulting and AI education. It's basically workshops and lectures for mostly non-technical teams how to use AI in the workplace to be productive. So we mainly focus on the practical side of AI as well, the business side. And yeah, that's it. That's mainly what we do.
All right, awesome.
Awesome. All right. Hey, Michael, how's it going? I see you out there. Saw Ronnie at the show, by the way. Uh, let's get into it. How did we get here with AI? What's the current state? And where is it headed? How did we get here? Oh my God, it's been a crazy couple of years. I know. So for me, I think for a lot of everybody else, it was ChatGPT suddenly released a thing, and then it was like, holy cow, what can this thing do? That's incredible. And then along the way came Claude, and it's like, wow, this thing is on another level. Holy. So where are we now with AI? It seems like every company has one. What are we up to these days?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like everyone's obviously using it. Everyone from parents, kids, children, it's all over the place. Obviously, businesses are using it. That's where some, conversations come in, because obviously it brings some risk and stuff like that. We'll get to that. But, and then there's the next level, which stuff like Hadass and Judah are doing at their firms, where custom solutions, integrations, using the tools to make organizations more efficient, and doing things more with less, right? That's always the point of technology. So it's been moving very quickly, like Norman said. There's so much going on. Everyone's having the conversation, but then where is it where the rubber meets the road? How do you actually implement these things where you can make great use out of it and drive efficiency in your organization? So we'll touch on those things, but what's next, Norman?
Well, let's hear about some of these AIs. Right? There's a whole bunch of them. What have we got? Who wants to jump in on that?
Hadass, talk about the various AIs that you're using, your clients are using, and maybe some differences.
Yeah, sure. So I will start by saying there are so many, of course, tools, okay? There are the tools that usually you will see enterprises, businesses, organization, under, I would say, the business titles. Those tools are mostly the business will use, and there are the individual tools. The individual tools will be like Grok. Like I mentioned, the beginning, Grok is AI tool that basically, it's really great for, I would say, developers. If you are a developer and you want to build something, it's really good with coding, but you won't see this tool being used inside of a work environment. Some people will use it also for searching posts inside of X, former Twitter, just to get information or what's the gossip or stuff like that. So that's why this specific tool will mostly individual will use. Under the business sector, we'll see ChatGPT, Copilot, we'll see Gemini, Claude, of course. And I would say the differences between the tools, it's their capabilities, of course. So I will start with ChatGPT. ChatGPT, I feel like it's the home-based. We all exposed to the generative AI through OpenAI, ChatGPT. So that's like the home base, the comfortable place. It's also good in our organization environment. You have the projects there to manage your projects. You can ask questions, write reports, search some stuff. Again, great tool. And also now you have the work feature that allowed you to send follow-ups email through your chat, summarize the Slack conversations or tasks that you have there and stuff like that. And you have Claude. Claude is definitely an amazing tool. It's my, right now at the moment, to-go tool. You have the feature of Claude Cowork that you just like, it's multiple agents running around, do for you different tasks, sending stuff, reminders, follow-ups, research, everything you want in just one place. And you have Gemini. Gemini also, it's a great place, but you will see Gemini being used mostly with organizations that use Google Workplace. So that's more makes sense to them because they arrange everything through Google. So they just continue and purchase just another Google product. And you have Copilot, same concept, but if you work mostly with Microsoft 365 environment, so it just makes sense to continue with Copilot. And those are the main tools in, I would say, the business sector.
Yeah. And
So
go ahead.
you touched upon a couple of things there, actually. You mentioned the idea of using things like Claude and ChatGPT to surface some of the stuff that's in your Microsoft tenant, or you can search around. It can write documents for you, and then you also mentioned their agentic part of that, so they can do stuff.
Yeah.
What sort of things can they do for me? I see that we've started to move from beyond that beginning layer of, okay, we've got ChatGPT, we've got Claude AI, and they're finding things for us and stuff like that. Now we're moving into agentic. So
Yeah.
give me a quick 1 second on that.
Yeah, sure. So I would just repeat what you said. We are in 2026. We are moving from conversations to actions. If in the past, like you mentioned, it was, hey, ChatGPT, I have a question. And then you have the output, the response. Now it's more than that. It's taking action for you. For example, you will need to create a pitch deck or a report or anything with presentation, let's say. Instead of you going and logging to Canva or different tools, collect the information, put it and design the presentation, now you can do everything inside one platform with a simple request. You ask, for example, let's focus on, let's say, Claude, okay? Claude have the features of connectors. Through the connectors, you give Claude access to different tools. For example, we spoke about presentations. You can connect to Canva. You can connect to Gamma AI. Gamma, it's basically generating presentations with AI as well. So all you got to do with Claude, you can connect, let's say, your email or a document that where everything is saved there, and just say to Claude, hey, in this document, I have all the information. I need to create a presentation in Canva. Please do it for me. And all you got to do is just wait and watch. And after that, of course, the important layer is the human in the loop. You make sure to go over it, check that everything is in place. It didn't misspell anything or there is any misinformation. And then you have a presentation ready, maybe even less than 5 minutes. So that's like I would say the agentic part, that it's really amazing, that it's also all in one place. You don't need to jump between different tools.
Right.
It's all in just really like I would say in a sentence reach from you. Just put your prompt and you get the request.
And then there's the prompting, and then there's also on the agent side, there's scheduled tasks, right? You could automate stuff so that while you're sleeping at night, the robot's doing all the work for you, right? You come in, you have all your reports, you have everything going on. So that's a key part of it. So
yeah, and I can give also an example for me. We talk about AI moving in such a speed.
Yeah.
It's sometimes so hard and overwhelming to catch up with everything. So what I've done with the scheduling, the AI basically every morning at 8 a.m. summarize all the hotlines and the news and the new features in the AI world. So I'm getting up in the morning, I have like my own newsletter, and it's just sent to my email, and it's like so easy like that.
Right. And then on the user facing side is one thing, but then like on the business side, like which Judah and Hadass really get into the nitty gritty, right?
Yeah.
You come into a company that's been around for 10, 20, 30 years, whatever it is, right? And they have all these systems all over the place, legacy stuff, on-premise SQL servers, virtual cloud servers. We have, tons of SaaS applications. Our SaaS expense is more than our rent and many other expenses, right? So many things, like Hadass was saying, connectors, right? We have our software that we use to provide service to our clients, our ticketing software. We have our HubSpot CRM. We have our Zero accounting package, right? And then all these things are working in silos, right? So this is the glue, right? We're talking next level stuff, right? There's obviously the chatbots that the people can interact with and build their own things. But then how do you see your organization, you have 10, 100, 200 employees, and you see inefficiencies, right? This is a 10-step, 12-step manual process I need to do to get an invoice out to a customer. I don't know, whatever it is, right? How do you cut that down from 12 steps to 3 steps or even 1 step or no steps? How do you automate it, right? How do you do that in your organization? Judah, maybe you can share a little bit about how do you go about from dream to reality? Like, it's so hard, especially with when companies have been in existence for a while. There's just processes that are almost unbreakable, right? It's culture, it's habits, it's legacy systems. How do you do the things that you do for your clients?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. And I would say that a lot of it, you know, when it really comes down to it, it's thinking about AI as if it's an intern or a first or second year associate, even though if you ask it very complicated questions, it can give you a very complicated answer, sometimes even at a PhD level. You know, sometimes it can surprise you how smart it is. But then you ask it to handle something in your org, and all of a sudden, you know, it's not able to have the context it needs because you're not giving it the information that it needs. So what we often do is we do workshops and exercises where we walk through every step of the process, pretending, hey, you want me to do this task, you know, walk me through as if I'm a new employee. And then that's where the nuance and the complicated parts start to arise. Oh, this database isn't connected. This data is not in this shape, you know, or, you know, 3 different teams use 3 different methods. And then we, you know, through, you know, talking it out and really understanding the process, that's how we're trying to make it as simple as possible. And simplicity is really one of the hardest things to do, right? Making something that's intuitive, making sure it has the right context. But a lot of that work behind the scenes, AI can do that interpretation, right? Because if you have 3 different systems, like let's say they're legacy systems, but ultimately you have one, what we call a schema that you want to map out that information into, right? So one understandable way that a machine can look at the data and understand what it's working with. It's very doable. And of course, you know, the more complex it is, then the more time we would need for it. But usually with current tools, it's often not as crazy as you think, especially if you know what you're trying to move it into, right? So you want to get your data in the right place. Now, once the data is in the right place, then you can say, okay, well, now we need to take X, Y, and Z, and let's say it's an invoice, and we need to populate it, right? And you know, why we're able to help in a lot of cases is, yes, maybe someone can do this locally in their Claude tool and they can get most of the way there. But how do you make sure that everybody is using the same tools? They're not playing around with the, you know, with the process that someone came up with too much, and then all of a sudden, you know, people start to spin off things for their own needs, because a lot of these tools, that's, you know, that's ultimately what you see with a lot of Claude driven stuff or Codex, or excuse me, ChatGPT driven stuff. So we basically hold our client's hand through the process and basically ensure that as the business needs evolve, as the system needs evolve, we're there to manage it, you know, with them. So, you know, there's definitely a time to build stuff on your own, especially if it's just something that you need. If you need something replicated across the organization, you know, that's where more firepower can be needed.
Right. So, I mean, some things we're seeing in our. Go ahead, Norman.
So okay, that sounded like I was one step down the road from where some of our people might be, which is, how do they identify opportunities? Like, how do you know, okay, I've got my business, this is what's going on. Oh, you know what? Maybe that thing will be made better with AI. How do we get to that point? How do you identify those opportunities?
So this is something that is still being figured out by everybody, and anybody in the industry who can tell you with certainty of what AI can and can't do. Don't listen to them, because I think everyone's figuring this out right now. You know, this technology is only 8 years old, and really 4 years old in a consumer sense, right? So everyone's still figuring out what it can and can't do, and it's going to have its limits. But at the moment, you know, the current state of affairs in August of 2026, what you're looking at is, I would say, if you want to really boil it down, it's going to be something that you would trust to like a mid or junior level associate, and that's something that you can explain with relative ease, right? Like, okay, maybe we'll spend a few hours walking through this process, and of course there's going to be nuance, but like, if you're talking about something where a lot of the knowledge is living in people's heads, or every single time it's going to be a different system to pull something from, and it's super context specific, then you're going to find that you're not really going to be able to replicate the same kind of results that people do. Now, that's not to say that AI can't be involved in a lot of processes. So the tools that Hadass was mentioning, those are best leveraged when you can be really specific with what you want. So let's say you want to build a presentation, right? So you could have, you just got to throw some information in it and say, build a presentation, and it'll come up with something that works. But like, you want to leverage your own experience, right? You want to leverage your own expertise. So if you instead say, okay, let's use this information for this slide. I want to structure it like this on the left-hand side. I want a diagram with these, showing this kind of cycle for improvement. And then lastly, I want to be able to tie it all together with this, with this vision, breaking it down in month 2, month 3, and month 4. And you like just kind of spit at it, right? As if you're giving instructions for someone to compile it. It'll do a far more accurate job, right? So it really comes down to the context that you're able to provide these tools. And the more context that you can provide and point it in the right direction, the better it will do. Now, the AI is getting better with each passing month at inferring what you might need, which is why if you started with ChatGPT in November of 2022 when it was released, that's why prompt engineering was a whole thing, right? You choosing every single word mattered. And if you just change one prompt, like one word, thing blows up. Oh no, that's no longer the case. And in future years, it's going to be getting better and better at deriving intent. But for now, the more specific you are, honestly, the better. And thinking of it as like, I have to instruct someone like an employee to do this. And the less you leave it to infer on its own, the better, the more in line the results will be with what you were intending.
Right. So there's like,
I know when I sometimes write my prompts, I'm a bit lazy about it. I'm like, that's enough information, and let it go.
Sometimes it works fine,
It's often an iterative process when I'm doing it. I get lazy about the prompt. I press send, it answers. Okay, then I massage it a bit.
Yeah.
So for organizations specifically, like right, teams, like how do we drive efficiency? So there's the chat layer, right, where every worker has it on their desktop or their phone, their device, they're using it, they're interacting with it. Then there's the connectors that Hadass spoke about, right? So you can integrate these things into, for us, it's HubSpot for our CRM. We use Microsoft 365, Slack, Asana, all these tools, right? Now you went from this level, right? Elementary school to high school, right? You now can leverage the tool that's on every worker's desk and, integrate it with your email, write up an email for me, search for this meeting that I had, 15 years ago with that guy because of a lawsuit or something like that, right? So now you're at the next level of efficiency. And then beyond that, like I just came from a trade show for our industry, IT managed services. There's stock shelf software that they're developing, right? So a big thing we spend our time on is help desk and ticketing, right? So that's answering the phone, writing up the ticket, assigning the work, summarizing it, making sure it has the right priority, making sure it has the right title. So there's vendors in our industry that are basically saying, I have a software that could do this for you. It's $2,000 a month. You could eliminate the guy that's answering the phones and writing up all the tickets. I don't know that I trust that yet. Our clients are, they want human touch. But at least in the background, let it do all the work and let our, people still answer the phones and help them, but still automate a lot of what they're doing, right? And then there's more custom layer, right, where it's a unique situation, right? Like I mentioned earlier, you have a client that's got an old server, a new thing, a Salesforce, this and that. You have this treasure trove of data and history, and you could get all sorts of, analytics and where things are going based on where things went, right? How do you leverage all that? And then there's the risk and safety issue, right? Like, let's talk about, like, I know that a lot of our clients, at least the ones that are aware, like before we connect them to their Claude or whatever it is to their 365, we have to basically do like a governance and assessment, right? Norman, get into a little bit of that.
Yeah, so one of the first things we tell our clients is, once you connect this thing to Microsoft 365, someone can ask the question about just about anything, and who knows what it can surface. If you don't have the permissions right on your finance folder in SharePoint, someone could ask an innocent question. Someone in your organization could ask an innocent person have access to that person's email. It's all kinds of things like that. It's like you got to see this plan they come up with. It's point after point just to make sure that it won't surface the wrong thing. I don't want to scare you off of doing an assessment, but it's certainly something that's required And what'll come out of it will both make your security better and will make the LLM work. Will make like Claude or Copilot or whatever work a lot better because it's narrowed down to what it needs.
Judah, how do you protect? What do you guys do when you go through and you build an application and all this stuff with the governance, the assessment? How does your organization approach that?
So it's a great question, and it can get tricky, especially if you're in an industry with a lot of regulation and other compliance requirements. But kind of setting that aside for a second, I think what Norman was mentioning is a very real one of, you don't necessarily want everybody to have access to everything. And that goes for the people and the agents that you're building, right? Like you don't want, if you say, hey, your task as an agent is just to summarize these calls after I have IT help desk calling in and they're complaining, I just need a summary for that. You don't need access to all of our Google Drive, right? Like that's sometimes it might go, haywire and try to, because there was something hinted to that it interprets that as, oh, I need to go do that. And it doesn't happen often, but if you're talking about at a certain scale, right, it's bound to happen at some point. So that's what we call guardrails. And this is a common term that you'll hear about. And every software or even the models themselves like Claude and OpenAI have different approaches to this. But to put it quite simply, it's basically safeguards putting in to make sure that the agent doesn't act up, that there might be checks and balances on its outputs, or keeping what's people in the loop, which is called human in the loop, very conveniently named, to make sure that whatever is being surfaced, that nothing gets either written back to your database in a more permanent way without human approval, nothing gets sent out to clients without human approval, right? And making sure that there's gated checkpoints. And for many things, especially if it's just something for internal reference, like, hey, I just need a tool that can take, internal calls and summarize them. Like, you don't need to have tons of guardrails around that. There's no consequence to that. If it misinterprets things, it just lands in my inbox as a summary. No big deal. But for things that are client facing, for things that, where you're generating things which are helping you generate the actual value for your end clients and whatever that looks like, then you're definitely going to want to keep a much tighter leash on what's going on. And at scale, right, if you're a large organization, then there's a lot more that has to be thought through. And they're happy to go deeper into that. But for most teams, a lot of the tools that are built into these models, they give a lot of detailed guidance on how to provide those guardrails, and how to best use their tools within your ecosystem. So, but happy to go into that if you'd like, or Hadass can also probably give some insights into that as well.
I mean, also I wanted to mention, and this is happening a lot with our client base specifically, right? Everyone's a genius. They go, they find ChatGPT, they load Claude on their computers. Okay, great. So now in our businesses, right, most businesses, users can install their software on, not most, I should say, many users can install software on their computer. Great. So now they install Claude or whatever on their computer and they say, oh, I want to connect it to Dropbox. I want to connect it to this. And then if the IT policy allows that, then they're going to be able to do that, not on the tenant level, but on their account level. It could go to their Outlook and whatever it is, right? So now we're getting into these situations with AI adoption policies and what's allowed and what's not allowed. You're not allowed to load the software. Okay, great. But the reality is, can they load it? Can they not? Readiness is a lot. It's also on the infrastructure layer, making sure that users don't have administrative rights on their computers, making sure that users are using company-issued devices. There's a lot that can be done in the way of governance with Google, with Microsoft 365, endpoint management, mobile device management. My users, I only want them to be able to use my Microsoft 365 for my company stuff, because if they could use it from their home device, then they can install the stuff on their home device and still access their Outlook and whatever it is. The products are out there that allow you to do this, but you have to be in a ready position to do it. And that takes a lot of work. If you're not there yet, you want to be careful and have discussions with your IT internal or managed service provider, whatever it is, right? Norman, did I miss anything on that? Or like, even there's so many layers of guardrails and governance, like it doesn't end. Like,
we've seen our clients creating acceptable use policies and distributing them throughout their company. I've seen a few different ones. Some will say exactly which AIs, in fact, most of them have this, exactly which AIs are acceptable to use. One thing we have realized in our clients' acceptable use policies is that even from just a few months ago to today, it's changing so fast that you really have to kind of keep updating this thing. None of our clients had anything like AI wearables in their acceptable use policies. Now they're all going back and re-putting them into them, wearing glasses, right? And that has AI in it, a necklace recorder that records your conversations. All of these things need to go into your acceptable use policy. Hey, people out there, if you guys want to ask a question, you can throw it in the comments. And also, Alex put a link to, if you load that link up, you'll be able to come onto the webinar and ask your question. So if you want to do that, get in there.
All right, so what do we got? We got, if you want AI.
Okay, so what I've heard from the two of you, from all of you, is I feel like there's kind of two levels to this whole AI thing. I've got my sort of at the user level, which are my Claude, my ChatGPT, those guys, right? And then I have the ones that are more at the, let's call it company level, which is where people like Unframe come in, where you're not using Claude to do it, you're not using ChatGPT to do this solution, you're using something bigger that touches a whole bunch more systems, right? Does that sound like what you guys have been saying? Yes, I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay, good. So let's actually talk about rollout. Okay, so I've got this tool. Let's say I wanted to roll out Claude. My whole company's asking for Claude. Do I just throw it at everybody and let it go and connect it to everything? Or do I roll it out to a few users first? Where am I going with this thing first?
Yeah, Hadas, take that one.
Yeah, sure. So definitely when you choose a tool, don't just choose a tool. Let me start with that. Okay, definitely.
Great comment.
It's something you definitely have to consult with your IT service provider, or if you have an IT department, definitely it's something you have to discuss. The next layer, I would say, it's really what is the AI policy? It's something very important. Who get what access, what people can do or cannot do with the tool. Like we mentioned before, what they can download and what they connect to or not, and all of that. It's very, very important. Also, I would say when you choose a tool, it's also what type of subscription do you choose? It's something very, very important, because today a lot of companies get a tremendous, I would say a huge bill of token usage. And then they're like, we invested in AI, but we will get broke because of AI. So it's definitely choose also the right subscription. There are a subscription that you pay per seat, like every month, but also now there is a subscription per token use. So it's also what makes sense for the company. And definitely don't think that people just come from their house with the capability to use the AI tools. That's something that I really have seen a lot, that the leaders itself don't know how to use AI. They expect their employees to use AI. And the way they expect it, it's like, come on, it's AI. You for sure know how to use it. It doesn't work like this. They have to go through a training. And the training, it's not a general training. No, it have to be per department, per team. Every team and their department have their needs and their unique workflows and their bottlenecks. And the training have to be really customized for them and their needs, and really to see how they can use AI in their workplace. But Some companies will just, I would say, buy the license for everyone, but some start as a pilot, like with a specific team. Not every team will have access, maybe few teams. So it's all depend what's your strategy, what's your plan for the long run, what exactly you're trying to achieve. And based on that, you decide how to do the rollout with whatever tool makes sense to the company to use.
Yes, and then there's also like advanced stuff, right? We're talking about the actual application on the user's workstations. You mentioned, if the leadership doesn't know how to use it, how do the employees? But like, there's skills, there's projects, there's artifacts. We didn't talk about all those things. Those kind of advanced. Like, you're not going to guess your way through that one. So maybe touch on what those things are.
So those are very important. Like Judah mentioned, the most important thing with AI is, first of all, have your data organized, okay? Messy house lead to messy results, very simple. And secondly, of course, make sure that, I would say, you know exactly what you try to achieve. Like, what are you trying to do? Something very important, in my opinion. Don't come up, just teach them AI. Okay, but be more specific. So those specific stuff, it's the context as well. Come up with the context. Context, it's very important. And we see context in project. Projects are basically, I would say, an organized hub for a specific project that you guys run at the moment, and you give the context of that specific project. So the way the LLMs work, if you ask a question, you get a response. That response based on multiple source, not even will be your specific source. It's your specific data. It can be something from the internet that it was trained on or something like that. The project is relying on the specific document you upload that's relevant to the project. So those are the contexts. And that's why you're more likely to get a more accurate and on-point response, because again, it's look at the references, it's look on the documents you upload. So those are the projects. Skills, they are basically, I would say, the new versions of prompts. Skills that basically are in to make you stop prompting like normal, and you say, I don't have power to prompt, I just tweaked it a little bit. So skills are here to make it way easier. Skills, it's basically a skill, okay? It's give the specific knowledge, expertise to that tool, to that LLM that you use. So for example, if you are an accountant and you do something specific in accounting, like payrolls, there are specific, I would say, workflow or stuff that you do as an accountant, okay, in that workflow of payroll. And you teach basically Claude have the feature to build skills. So Claude will ask you questions, you give references, examples, documents, how to basically do those payrolls in the way that you like, that customized to your workflow, and then he build that skill for you. So next time, instead of you prompting and tweaking and go over again, you just pull that payroll skill and Claude know exactly what to do for you. And you don't need to keep asking over and over again.
Right.
Skills are very important.
A repeatable process, right? Like I do the billing and invoicing in my company, and there's all sorts of sources of bills that we get. We sell Dropbox, we sell Microsoft, we sell this. There's a whole reconciliation process that you go through manually and make sure that the quantities are right. So you could teach the AI the skill, and then you don't have to do that work anymore if you told it correctly.
Keep asking and keep teaching, basically. You definitely need to go over everything. Every AI output have to be watched and supervised, and you guys have to check it. But those are the skills, and they're very important. Each department, each role, each person can build their own skill. So that's something very, very useful, and it's come to basically make it easier from the prompting side.
Right. So we're talking about unleashing the power. That's like very powerful, right? On Judah's level, let's say it's more very high level, a system that's being implanted into the organization, and everyone's just using it. They're giving them a front end application that they could use, right? But Hadass just touched on something like very powerful. Like if the users are trained and know how to use the actual application, and you have all these people working on their desks doing stuff in Excel and Word all day long, and it's a lot of times it's stuff that they do every day, every week, every month.
Yeah.
They have it's their own little system that they create. It doesn't even have to be. It's just something that they've done over the years. They have the power to basically, train the AI to basically do the work for them if they were smart enough to pull that off. Which, with the proper training and
The right
our
context, I would say, the right like examples. It's very important, of course.
right, and the user could really unleash that. It's very powerful. They could create more time in their own day without even management having to figure it out, right?
And I will add on that, because skills are so powerful, more others AI tools at the market allowed you basically to export skills from one LLM to another one, because skills are so powerful. If you want to move between tools or use multiple tools, you
Right.
can share that skill instead of all the time building it over and over and over again.
Right, like we have a client that creates apparel, their wholesale distribution, and they spend a ton of money on design resources. The people who actually make, the shirts or this pant, the design part, they work in Adobe all day long, and they have years and years of Photoshops, whatever, illustrators of products sitting in static files. What do they spend half their time looking at past the styles and designs, opening it, closing it, opening it, closing it. You could theoretically have the AI teach you the skills and just say, do this for me every day. It's something they're doing every day and every week anyway. Every Monday, I want you to send me the styles that we made 12 months ago and summarize it for me, and just have it for me at my doorstep when I walk into work in the morning, right? So it's really powerful. There's a lot to unpack here. I think it's just so many opportunities for efficiency, which we all here are about. Like everyone wants more efficiency, less manual steps, do more with less. We want to be working on valuable stuff and telling you what to do, right? I think we unpacked a lot over here. Is there more to go over here, Norman?
Well, I wanted to touch it sounds like you guys are touching on it, but I'm sure people have heard this concept of Claude co-work. I wanted to hear 1 minute about that, and then 1 minute about Claude Code and Codex, how these things, because I'm sure people have heard all these things. And then I have one thing right after that. So, co-work. Hadas, what is this thing and what can I do with it?
So Claude Co-work is for the work. That's the main purpose. So it's really through the Claude Co-work, you really connect to the all workspace applications, Microsoft 365, the documents you have, the Slack, Asana, all of that. And you streamline basically your repetitive workflow. So sending stuff, pull information, how many times it's happened to us that we try to find that specific email or that specific information, and you need to scroll. So instead of that, you ask a question, you pull information, it's do for you stuff. Like I mentioned in the beginning, creating presentation, a report, or anything like that. It just make it more easier.
Right.
For example, with HR, onboarding presentation or document, or updating this as well. You can do it through Claude Co-work. Instead of you doing manually, you just put the prompt or the skill as well, and just Claude Co-work run it for you. And you can share it with the new onboarding, the new candidates and the people that you just hire, and make it just more easier instead of manual work.
So co-work is for companies and teams as opposed to individual. But then the last thing I think we want to touch on is coding, right? This is not. We do have some clients with that are actually developing their own applications using Claude, like the ones that are really advanced on the AI, which is unheard of, right? If you wanted to build software, you would have to go to a developer, contract them, like some of us over here do for a living. We're more in the prepackaged software. We're selling 365 Dropbox, but there's this whole thing of coding, and I think it's gotten much simpler and much more cost effective, and you need less skilled workers to pull things off. Judah, maybe you could touch on the coding aspect of things. I know this is not so much that all the employees will interact with, but they will benefit from it.
No, of course, of course. I mean, look, it's an exciting time. Like it does seem that like even with relatively limited technical ability, one is able to build something that works and does the job. It's really impressive with what a lot of the tools that you can work with when you hook them up to databases, or you hook up Claude Code directly to your code base, how quickly you can make changes. However, I would caution one thing, which is maybe not the most popular opinion, and it's that if you really need to rely on a piece of software because it's business critical, do not code it like this. At the end of the day, and you'll hear this from experienced engineers all over the place, if you build software just with a non-technical background and it's a business critical application, it's not going to end well. It might be impressive, it might work in some instances, but as soon as it hits the real world, you will often find that it does not do the job. The exception is, of course, if you have someone who is a trained software engineer who they're able to do a lot more, they're able to push changes a lot quicker, right? And that's what this, and the software is getting better at this, don't get me wrong, right? Like it really is able to do very impressive things. But if you, I can't tell you how many times we've heard of something being what's called vibe coded, right? Which is basically built with one of these softwares. Right. And, someone whose experience comes in and looks around and sees a house put together with duct tape and WD-40 and it pushes and it topples over the slightest prod of a finger, right? And the code base has swelled to 10 times the amount and it's slow, and I'll caution with that. What it's really, really good at though is like figuring out proof of concepts, just starting out when you have someone who's non-technical who wants to work on a vision together with maybe a design team, right? And it's really a powerful tool, and just visualizing and bringing to life within minutes, right? Instead of, needing to spend 10 hours, 50 hours just on the frame of what you're concept. So it's really, really, really cool. But again, a word of caution for anything business critical. But if it's something,
that's the business that we're in. Like for us, it's very important that anything that we put in front of a client, it's supportable. That means we have to be able to support it. It has to be stable. It needs to be secure. So with all this great, power, it still needs to be done according to those best practices, right? Secure it,
100%.
Affordable. You don't want to, like you said, build something, rely on it. All of a sudden, your whole business relying on it. Something doesn't work, and then who do you call?
And there's also the hidden cost of maintenance, right? Like it's not the sexiest thing, but you do often find that maintaining, even if you build something, let's say you do an incredible job.
Right.
It works. There's a tool for my whole team. 50 of us, we're all using this. Is great. I guarantee that within 6 months, the cost of maintaining, like I was reading this story about a team that built a ticketing system all on their own, super custom made. And after 6 months, they decided to go with a provider because the cost of maintaining that ticket system was more work than the old one was, just because they wanted something.
Right. So if you do look to write something custom, you have to make sure the vendor that you select is going to support you ongoing, and there's costs to that.
That you have your own.
So Judah,
don't forget about that. Mm-hmm.
So Judah, we've got all these self-serve AI tools like Claude and Cowork, and ChatGPT. At what point does a business outgrow these self-serve tools, and how do you know when they're there?
Well, I mean, I don't think any business quite outgrows them. I mean, there's a reason why these, Claude and ChatGPT are used by some of the largest enterprises on earth, right? They still are useful in individual workflows. So instead of thinking along the lines of my business needs X, it's what workflows do I need to support for my employees, whether you're a 10-person business or whether you are a 10,000-person business. Because on an individual level, people are always going to have an individual way of doing things, and that's why you hire them. They're smart, they're capable, and you have to trust them that they, and of course provide them the tools and the resources as possible, but trust them to do their job well. And you could have 5 people with the same role, and they're all using tools differently, and they're all coming up with, their spin on things, and they're doing good work, and you want to support that. But on the level of like, where you need someone to manage something, it can be business critical things that involve, pulling multiple systems together that all need maintenance. We need connectors with 5 different things, and it can be legacy software. It can be software that's not like, if you're just connecting, you're working within the Gemini ecosystem, as Hadas mentioned, you're just connecting your Gmail. Of course, that's not something you really need to maintain. It's all within the same, the same family. But if you're having Gmail talk to your planning system for your manufacturing ball bearings, and also we have a call center, in Minnesota, where we have a robo thing that's intaking our calls and checking and screening for simple app, like that whole orchestration, like that is a balancing act that outside help can really help with. And making sure that those connectors are robust, making sure that you have the monitors if anything goes down, making sure that, again, like the governance we discussed, making sure that the agents are only that you're employing are only looking at the information that they need, so you don't have everything scanning everything all at once, because then it just starts to become, what we call slop. And I'm sure you've heard that term.
Are you saying it's not set it and forget it?
No, that's not true. Some things really are set and forget. Like I'd say, like the relatively straightforward things are, whether it's like cleaning an inbox or rising this, right? Where things like, if you had an intern, you're like, hey, just do this every day, please. And like, here's the instructions. Great. Right. But if you're having it really deliver, and there's like pipelines, intricacies to take into account,
for sure,
there's always maintenance involved. The world is dynamic, and entropy is inevitable. So it's to make sure that you are able to keep up with that. It requires time and patience. And yes, the AI is getting really good. It's really impressive. And with every month I'm surprised at what it can do. And also I'm let down at just the simple things it seems to drop the ball on. So making sure that you have people who are experienced with that is more
and available.
So to wrap up, we've heard a whole bunch about the various AIs beyond what the various AIs can do. Would you like, now that we've got an understanding of the AI landscape, would you guys want to do like your 30-second elevator pitches? So once again, say what your companies do? Yes, no?
Sure, I don't mind.
Go for it.
Yeah, because now I think people will have a better understanding. We may have said it in the beginning, but at least people have a better understanding at this point.
Yeah, how do you help your clients at that?
Yeah, so after you figure out, I would say, the IT level, the security, the governance, I'm here to make it more practical. So how is your team can use the tool you have decided is right for your business? So basically through workshops and lectures, and the AI strategy part is prioritize the use cases, how to implement it correctly, from which department we start, and the rollout, and etc. So
All right. So you're spending all this money on this stuff, maximize the investment and get the most out of it that you can. Sounds great. How about you guys, Judah?
Yeah, so here at Unframe, we're a Series B startup. We already have over $100 million in TCV in just a 2-year company, which is it's really impressive, and definitely not all me, that's for sure. We're a growing company, a lot of really smart people here who can work with your enterprise to or small, medium, large business, whatever it is, and we'll help you understand what are the use cases that can, would be the biggest impact, in your firm. So whether those business critical things that we were talking about earlier, that's what, we're entrusted to do for some of the largest enterprises, around the world. And we have committed teams who can make sure that it never goes down. Making sure that all those connectors are right and worthy all the time, are ship worthy. Right, and if there's any leaks in the hole, we plug them up real quick.
Yeah,
so,
they just helped us with a client, and we delivered in 2 months a whole application, which is pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, we work extremely quickly, and whether you know or not what you want to build, we'll get you there.
All right, so we hope to continue to work together more in the future. Very excited to see where this is all going and what it's going to look like in a year or two. But in the meantime, we're all here to help. Please reach out if you want to talk to us about any advice or just want to hear a different perspective. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, see y'all next time.
Hear from